You're in.
And apparently, you're Inquest.
Don't let that throw you.
No, you're still basically you.
You're looking into the cause of this disaster. You'll need a reactor core sample.
Hey guys, Sav here, and on today's Fractal Friday video, we're going to do Thaumanova Reactor. During the Living World Season 3 Chapter 4 patch, they decided to rework the Thaumanova Reactor Fractal, which I think to a lot of people in the community was a little bit of a surprise. Before the Chaos Isles Fractal came in as the newest Fractal, almost a year ago now, Thaumanova Reactor was, for the long time, the newest Fractal. Going back to the Living World Season 1, when there was, I guess, some kind of like election between Ellen Keel and Evan Nashblade. Ellen Keel promised this Fractal, and Evan Nashblade promised a different Fractal, and Ellen Keel ended up winning the election, and this Fractal was brought into the game, and like I said, for a long time was the newest Fractal. So it was kind of, I don't know, it's a little odd, I guess, that this Fractal was updated. I think there's a lot of other candidates for Fractals that need updating. I really didn't think this was one of them. However, it was done, and it wasn't really done badly. There's some minor things that I'm not overly fond of, but overall, this was my favorite Fractal before the update, and it is still my favorite Fractal now. So the Fractal used to start when you would breach the wall. There'd be a small encounter there, and then you'd move on to an encounter in the middle of the Fractal with some Scrit. However, they changed the Scrit out and put in some Char Flame Legion, and you no longer have the initial encounter in the beginning. Overall, I believe this quickens the fight. I don't know if it's necessarily a good change. It just took one encounter out of the Fractal, which I don't know if I like or dislike, to be honest. But it does make the Fractal obviously move a little bit smoother, a little quicker. There's a lot of going on when you first get into the Fractal, and you don't have to really participate in any of it. I don't know if I actually like that. So anyway, once you get through that first Char Flame Legion encounter, there's the 4 rooms open up, and inside these rooms you have to deactivate a collider. The first room is the cooling chamber, also known as the heat room. We skip that. Typically groups do skip that unless they have somebody who can solo it, and we'll get to the updates on that a little bit later. The first room we're doing here today is the Repulsor Lab, where you have to go to basically 2 corners of the Repulsor Lab, avoiding all these repulsor beams, and activate 2 switches to open up a final area which has 2 switches inside of it. Now, the first switch can be accessed after going through a short maze. The second switch can only be activated once the first switch is activated, and the third and fourth switch, which are actually next to each other, can only be accessed after the second switch is activated. These third and fourth switch, just a note, can be soloed by somebody with a Condi Cleanse. Doesn't need actually 2 people. Once that is completed, you've disabled the first collider, and then we move on to the dormitories. The dormitories have 4 or 5 rooms, I'm not 100% sure, and basically you have to come in, bash down the doors, kill the minions inside the doors, and save a bunch of inquests that are inside these dormitories. Once, I think it's 4 inquests that need to be saved. Once the 4 inquests are saved, another door will open up, and that is where you deactivate the second collider. There's not a whole lot to say about this room, other than it's kind of the most boring room in this Fractal. They updated this area with some different minions. However, they really didn't do much to really spice this room up. It's still pretty much the same thing. You go in, you DPS a door, and then you kill whatever's inside the door, and then some sort of go for it. Just a note on the Repulsor Lab. Not a whole lot of change about the Repulsor Lab either, except for the golems inside the Repulsor Lab now only have a small area where they can be aggroed. So they won't follow you throughout the entire section. There was also a change to the actual repulsors themselves. You probably saw the little line underneath them, kind of make it more obvious on when you're going to be struck by the repulsor. However, not much else really changed about it. All these enemies that you're seeing along the ledge up here will not attack you. You can basically just really run past them. There's almost no reason to kill them whatsoever, or any of the portals that open up. One thing that did change, if people used to do Thaumanova and remember the portals that would spawn, the portals no longer pull you in, which is a very good improvement, because I actually used to be able to just kill people. It was kind of buggy. It could pull you way up into the sky and then drop you right down, and it would actually kill you. So it was a good thing that was changed. This room, called the Live Subject Lab, is more commonly referred to as Subject 6. It's a Subject 6 encounter. The name of the ooze that's going to spawn is called Subject 6.
I don't want to die here.
Stop whining. I need these results. And in case you haven't noticed, we're running out of time. Yes, the experiment will probably kill you, but it will also advance the Inquest's march toward total world domination. Subject 6 is nearly ready. Now, pipe down and take your medicine. Some of us intend to survive this fiasco. Wait! You can't slime me to death! I'm your creator! Ah!
Look out! That's so-called Subject 6.
So there were some pretty good improvements to Subject 6. The little blue oozes that spawn to heal him no longer do nearly as much health. However, every 25% of his health, so basically at phases at 75%, 50%, and 25%, a golden ooze will spawn, and that golden ooze, which is a lot stronger than the blue oozes, will give him a ton of health, and will basically heal him almost back up to the other 25% threshold. So you want to focus down the gold oozes when they spawn. However, you can neglect a good amount of the blue oozes. It only does like 1 to 2% of its health. Not that big of a deal. Connie Necros can obviously just epi these things down, and they're not that big of a deal. But do focus on the gold oozes. Overall, I think this was a good fix. And it also makes the final 25% of Subject 6 go really, really quickly, because you don't bother with the golden ooze at 25%. You just focus on Subject 6 and kill him. So you really only have to worry about 2 of the golden oozes. The golden oozes are champions, and they do have break bars, so you're going to have to break the break bars to get them to stop moving. Unlike the blue ones, which you can obviously just fear, cripple, or whatever, the golden oozes will just keep charging until you break the break bar. Another thing of note, which I don't actually see anywhere in the patch notes, and maybe it's just from my own personal feels, he still has his, which you can actually see right here, he still has his shield phase. However, it feels like it just doesn't happen nearly as often. And again, maybe that's just, I don't know if that was an update that they put in, or if it's just something, maybe it's just a coincidence that's how it seemed like every time. I've been in here twice since the patch, and both times it went really, really quickly, and I don't remember too many shield phases, so maybe I'm mistaken, or maybe it was actually made that way. I'm not sure. As you can see, here's some jump pads in here. They don't require any masteries or anything like that, so you can use the jump pads for quicker transportation around the Fractal. And here we're going to take a quick look at the heat room. The heat room used to be soloable by quite a few professions, including Necromancer. As you will see here shortly, I will try to solo it, and I can't. It definitely behooves the party to get the cooling rods, whereas before, really nobody cared about the cooling rods, especially if you had a Mesmer in your party. Mesmer would go halfway, drop a portal, and then something like a Necromancer or a Thief or somebody would just jump in the portal and go the rest of the way. Not so much the case anymore. I do believe Thief can still solo it. Necromancer, it's kind of close. Maybe a Necromancer can. I haven't been successful doing it yet, but most of the other classes that were able to do it before are not going to have much success. One thing you will notice right away when I get into the heat room, minus this giant jade tentacle in front of us, which isn't supposed to be there, it's bugged. However, it is part of the instabilities. I'll get to that in a second. You'll see this like fire AoE ticking down the platform, and that is one of the reasons why soloing it has become a whole hell of a lot more difficult, because that does a lot of burning damage, a lot of extra burning damage to you compared to what it used to do. It looks like this Thief was able to finally solo it in the end there. However, you can see that I was unable to get to the end myself. And again, I don't know if it was just a bad attempt, or if it's just that difficult that I can't do it anymore on my Necro. Quickly, before we get to the final boss here, just a little bit about the instabilities for this Fractal. Thaumanova Reactor in Tier 4 happens at 84 and 97. You're currently watching me do 97. The instabilities for 97 are Social Awkwardness, which has changed, by the way. Misconvergence and Adrenaline Rush. Misconvergence you see all the time with the different things from different Fractals popping out. Adrenaline Rush we've discussed before and it hasn't changed. Basically the enemies at the final 10% of their health get an Adrenaline Rush and they become enraged and they have more strength, I guess. But when you have a group of connies, the last 10% goes really quickly, so it doesn't tend to really be much of an issue. Social awkwardness has actually changed. You no longer give your party members agony when you walk into them with your AoE circle, your social awkwardness AoE circle. You now give yourself agony when you do that. Is it much of a difference? Not really, because obviously if you're walking into somebody's AoE circle and they're walking into your AoE circle, who gives who agony? It really isn't. I don't think it's much of a difference. You're still getting agony because you're too close to each other. I guess in some ways it could probably stop some kind of griefing, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to be much of a difference. The instabilities for 84 are Afflicted, Toxic Trail, and Flux Bomb, and it should be no surprise to you guys why I am doing 97 and not 84 when I mentioned those before. If you guys have watched my Fractal Friday videos before, you know I absolutely can't stand Afflicted. However, they have slightly fixed Afflicted. One of the biggest complaints I had with Afflicted was the confusion. The confusion would stack 5 at a time, and if you got two shots of confusion, you would have 10 stacks of it on you, and you would literally just kill yourself by auto-attacking in a matter of seconds. They have changed that, so it no longer puts 5 stacks on you, it only puts 2 stacks on you. So if you do get 2 in a row, you only have 4 stacks of confusion. It's a lot more manageable. It's not as bad as it used to be. We're starting the anomaly here, the final boss of the Fractal. Just a quick note on this particular fight, we had a disconnect, unfortunately, at patch time. So we had to 4-man this. We really didn't have a choice unless we wanted to start the whole Fractal over again. The guy that disconnected was forced to patch. So we basically were forced to 4-man it. You will all notice, if you haven't been into this Fractal for a while, that the platform is different. This was not a change that came with the latest patch to this Fractal. This platform was patched in a while back. It was a much welcome change. The platform was very difficult to see. The AoEs on the platform were very difficult to see. So adding basically more visibility to the platform was definitely well received. The changes for this patch, three main things really. One of which is the anomaly is now has a break bar. So you can now CC him and he will stop attacking for a short amount of time. This was something that I always found a little strange that didn't exist before, but it does now. They added a special action key, which you actually just saw me use right there to save my own ass, where you can now hit your special action key, and it has a cooldown. I'm not exactly sure how long the cooldown. It might be 40-second cooldown, where you can basically save the platform you're standing on from disappearing. So if you're in a tough situation like I was right there, you hit your special action key and the platform underneath of you will stay so you don't die. And finally, I think at 50% of the fight, the anomaly will basically take off the back 2 sections of the platform and shrink the platform. It makes the fight a little bit more challenging, and it's definitely a good thing that they added the special action hotkey thing, because a smaller platform can be a big deal when most of the platform is disappearing. But overall, the fight's pretty much the same, and this fight is really the reason why I've always enjoyed this Fractal. I find this fight challenging, yet not unfair. So I've always enjoyed this fight. It is probably my favorite fight in the game, and it is a good fight when you can do it well. And I think I do it well. I do it well on my Necro. I am now attempting other classes in Fractal, so we'll see how well I do with other classes, and if this boss fight continues to be my favorite fight in the game. We shall see, time will tell. But that's pretty much going to be the end of this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative, and I will see you guys next time.